Okay, Gabi, it's time for your lessons in anger management. Okay. First, you've got to be open minded. Don't let the influence of others push you to hate. Yes, I need to think for myself. Good, good. And practice empathy. Remember that different people have different points of view. I think I understand. They're not evil, they're just trying to survive in a harsh environment. And most importantly, we don't shoot our friends. Go ahead. You can say it. It's easy, Gabi. Just repeat after me. We don't shoot our friends. Kill! The episode is called Two Brothers, but really six brothers come into play. Or you could think of it as like three sets of two brothers, because, the most obvious set of brothers that we're seeing interact here in this episode are Aaron and Zeke. And then, last week when I did my last review, I wondered just how much of this episode would also be dedicated to another set of two brothers, Falco and Colt. But I didn't even think about the possibility of the third set of brothers because we also kind of see this sort of posthumous interplay between Porco and Marcel that happens too. So I love it when a title can be applied in more than one fashion, when it sort of has ambiguity in the meaning or maybe multiple applications of the meaning rather than ambiguity. But I just got to say that I did not expect that third set of two brothers to come into play. The effect that Marcel would have on Porco here and how much the two of them and their relationship would end up impacting the way that this episode ends and the role that another set of brothers have in the story, along with another set of brothers in the story. And to one degree or another, we're seeing with all three sets of brothers, when each pair of two brothers has their moment to shine, it appears that at least one of them is dead. In one situation, maybe that's not the case, we find out. And in another situation, by the time it's all said and done, two of them are dead. But we have three case studies of two brothers where in each pair it appears that one of the siblings may be dead. Not always the older or the younger, but it's pretty cool to follow the through line and to see how the brotherly relationship in different circumstances, very different circumstances, how it still has some similarities, but also the way that it behaves differently with each of these pairs. And I thought that was a really cool aspect to examine, the dysfunctional relationship between Zeke and Aaron, where they never really knew each other as brothers. They only know each other as brothers like by principle. Maybe some kind of inner feeling of loyalty might have Zeke having some feelings of affection towards Aaron. From what we see as this episode unfolds, it seems like Aaron has almost no affection for Zeke. And then we have Falco and Colt, which seem to be the most well adjusted pair of siblings, although it's under a really unfortunate circumstance with, Colt fighting for Marley here and their invading forces. And then we've got Falco, who's been exposed to the spinal fluid. So he's really put in the crosshairs of the Beast Titan attack. But they seem to have the healthiest relationship. But even it's the love in this situation and the caring that causes the death of Colt, which we're going to see as the episode unfolds. And then we have the long dead sibling of Marcel, and how even after his death, years after his death, the impact it can have on Porco and some of the decisions that Porco makes are still the effect it can have on Porco, maybe giving him just a moment of clarity or relief right before he dies. But it's interesting to see three different dynamics of multiple pairs of two brothers play out in this episode. And what a great title. It's a great title, well constructed. I got to take my hat off to that. But it is also nice as this episode gets started in the very beginning to see the forces of Paradis push back. Because I was feeling pretty bad with the technological advantages, just how much Marley was really rolling over Shiganshina and the troops were there. But then once the forces that have been locked up in the cells get out, those most experienced veteran scouts from the scout regiment, people like Mikasa, Armin, Jean, Connie, they get out, they're thunder spearing people left and right, they're cutting people down with their blades, and you see those more experienced garrison troopers getting on their horses, going out, and from horseback, they're using their own rifles to fight back the rooftop riflemen that Marley has. And it's kind of nice to see that that Paradis can fight back without just 100% depending on the Titans and the rumbling. But of course, they're fighting back in this very specific situation inside Shiganshina where they have the Marleyan forces outnumbered and there's no reinforcements. I don't think it would work on a global scale, but it's nice to see manpower fighting back from Paradis a little bit. But we do see Zeke. He's fallen from the top of the wall in the previous episode, but he is still alive. And I was speculating over just how alive he might be at the end of that last episode. But here, we see he's more alive than I thought. Like, he's not just got a heartbeat, he knows what's going on, and he unleashes the scream. But before he can unleash the scream, Falco lets him know about Colt and that Colt's been exposed to the spinal fluid and he's trying to win a little bit of sympathy over from Zeke. And we have two brothers here and he's saying, look, this is my younger brother. Think about how you care about Aaron just across the courtyard here. But Zeke's pretty cold-hearted. He cares about his goal in life, I think, more than he cares about anyone else's brother, including his own. Though he doesn't want to abandon his brother, he just says it's unfortunate. And there is some kind of comment about wanting to leave kids out of it, or can't we leave the children out of it? And Colt begs just to let Falco get far enough away that the scream won't affect him, but Zeke doesn't have any time to waste on something like that. So he unleashes the scream right away. But I really don't think Zeke wanted to bring children into this. Of course, if one gets brought in, he can't stop the whole plan for one child, at least not from his point of view. But this is something somebody pointed out in the comments. Like, it's not my idea, but I really like it. And I, let you know, I do read the comments. And when I see these things that really stimulate my thoughts on the episode, I try to incorporate them into the review. But somebody did say that the Marleyan wine that was tainted with the spinal fluid, well, that is an adult beverage. So the idea is it's only going to affect adults who drink the wine. And if you were just trying to get all the populace infected with the spinal fluid, then you might put it in something like milk or juice or something that's being consumed by all ages. So I think there was, at least maybe I'm creating this motivation based on a comment and it wasn't really intended to be as such. But for me, I can say there was at least a modicum of an attempt made to spare the children from the scream and from the titanification that occurs here. But we do get some pretty sad moments here as Zeke screams and he activates the spinal fluid. He turns all of these Eldians that have drank it in Shiganshina into Titans. And we get to see Pixis. We see the slow glow coming over Pixis's body as he's holding a bottle of booze up and he's getting to take one last sip of whiskey or wine or whatever his preferred drink is in the moment. Probably brandy. He seems like a guy who would drink like brandy or sherry or stuff I don't know much about. He just seems classy. Maybe it's port. I don't know. Port? Is port fancy? I don't know. But I figure Pixis, he got that one last drink. If he had to become a Titan, at least he got to do it doing the thing he loved. He died doing what he loved, drinking from a bottle. And it really did look like the last drop. So at least he got the whole bottle down before he transformed. And also, there's a little weird symmetry or some kind of bizarre karmic justice to the fact that it's his love of booze that got him turned into a Titan in the first place. But it was a little heart-wrenching for me. I've grown pretty attached to Pixis over the 4 seasons of Attack on Titan, so that one hit me. But what really crushed me was Colt's death, because Colt's death was avoidable. But he wanted to spend every last moment with his younger brother Falco. And when I watched it at first and saw the reaction, I thought Colt was just desperate and he was trying to shield Falco from the scream, like he thought maybe his body could keep the sound waves off of him, which is ridiculous. You can't do that, but in desperate times, sometimes we don't think rationally. But then, once again, in the comments, they said, hey, go rewatch that. And I have watched it a couple of times, and he's just embracing his brother. He wants one last moment with that sibling that he cares about, that he's tried to protect, and that he's done everything he's done for. He was all set to inherit the Beast Titan, at least in his mind he was, and here the very Titan that he was trying to become the embodiment of to save his family is what's killing his little brother. So he held him that one last moment, and the blast from the transformation just charred him. They showed his charred face and his corpse and what was left of him. And honestly, it looked a lot like Armin at the end of that episode, Hero. So that also brought a little bit of a jarring flashback, triggered a little bit by that image as well. But absolutely heartbreaking the way that Colt meets his end here from a person he really looked up to and who he thought was his mentor. Well, indirectly turns his brother into a Titan and he dies. And while all the Titan transformation is going on, we see Yelena is sitting up on this crenulation up atop a wall. Looks like it's part of a castle fortification or something from a bygone era. And she's just sitting up there with her legs crossed, watching the destruction go on in Shiganshina, watching Zeke release his scream and transform all these people into Titans. And I just wonder exactly what's going through her mind when she's sitting there. Like, is she contemplating a sense of satisfaction, or is she having a moment of regret where she can't believe what she's helped bring in this level of destruction on the city? And I wonder just how much she knows here about what Zeke's master plan is, also, because Zeke seems like the kind of guy to me to hold his cards close to the chest. And I don't know that he would trust Yelena any more than anybody else. I think he would tell her exactly what he needed to tell her to get her assistance in the plan. But I don't know how much she knows in this situation. I don't know if she's sitting there watching with satisfaction or with horror or with just quiet contemplation, just waiting for the ultimate result to unfold. Like, is she just sitting there eager to see the rumbling? I really don't know, but I'm eager to see what happens when we revisit Yelena, whether it's in the next episode. I figure we have to check in with her at some point before the end of the season. So I kind of want to see what her response is and what she has to say about all these events that she was just sitting up there and watching over like some kind of super monk or something. But when Falco becomes a Titan, immediately I called him the Giraffe Titan because he has a long neck. But once again, somebody had pointed out to me, either in the Patreon or maybe it was in the comments on the video, but they pointed out he has a long neck like a goose. And that really caught my attention because they've used birds as sort of a metaphor throughout the show, but specifically waterfowl. And it looks like probably geese more than ducks, though I'm not the kind of wetlands aviologist who can tell from a distance the difference between a goose and a duck when it's animated. But the geese in particular represent something in this show. And to have him have that long neck, I wonder if that means now that he's become a Titan, he's gained some kind of freedom that he never could have gained when he was still simply Falco. And that might be a stretch here. He may just have the long neck because it looks cool, but we got a duck Titan with Peak, and now we got a goose Titan with Falco here. So we've got the wetlands birds covered pretty well. We need a stork and I don't know, maybe a pelican. I don't think pelicans are wetlands. They're like oceans. So fly, pelican, fly. But when Falco becomes a Titan, he's ordered by Zeke to take the Armored Titan, to consume Reiner and take the power of the Armored Titan, which is kind of interesting because that's been his goal. Now, he didn't want it for selfish reasons. He wanted to be the Armored Titan to spare Gabi the labor and the burden of being the Armored Titan. But here he's getting his goal, though it wasn't probably how he envisioned it. And he's getting this goal devoid of any free will because while he's in his dumb Titan form, Zeke can order him. And Zeke's just simply ordering him to go take Reiner out of the Armored Titan. And he goes down and he's chomping pretty good. And Reiner's still embroiled in this melee with Eren, or with Titan Eren. So it looks like he's got a pretty darn good job at chomping Reiner there. And the Jaw Titan gets into the fight at some point when all this wrestling is going around, all this melee is going on. And there's something about the combination of Eren making contact with Reiner while Reiner makes contact with the Jaw Titan, with Porco, that like this memory electricity, like we've seen in previous seasons, it goes by. And then we see a flood of memories rush into Porco's mind, and he becomes fully conscious of Marcel and things that Marcel had said to Reiner. So it's like the memories are being communicated either through, the fact that Porco has inherited Marcel's Titan, so he's got those memories there. Those memories involve Reiner, so he's making the contact. And it seems like when Eren's around, that electricity goes on. So all three are touching. I have to think it's that three-way combination that unlocks the electric memories. But then he sees, much like the very sacrifice that Falco wanted to make for Gabi, well, a similar sacrifice, Marcel had talked up Reiner's abilities. He had put down the abilities of Porco just to spare Porco from being the Armored Titan. And as that realization comes along, he's just taken all these hammer blows from Eren right in the back of the nape. He's been beaten to the point he doesn't have enough energy to regenerate or to grow, and his wounds are pretty serious. He understands he's going to die. And in this moment, Porco lures Falco, the Falco Titan, away from Reiner. And when I first saw this, I thought in some warped fashion, he was trying to save Reiner. And it's like he wants Reiner to live with the knowledge that he never deserved the armored titan. His last words are, "I was always better than you." But then on rewatch, I get a different idea. Like, he's going to die. And if Porco doesn't pass on the Jaw Titan to someone who's of the Marleyan warrior program, well, then it's just going to be lost out there to the ether, and who knows where it's going to pop up again. So rather than lose his power, he wants to feed it to Falco because I guess he has enough confidence in Falco. Let Falco become the Jaw Titan. Reiner's still stuck in the Armored Titan. Regardless of the motivation, the plan works. Falco gobbles up Porco, so we know he's going to inherit that Jaw Titan power. And I'm really curious to see what that's going to mean for Falco. Like, what is he going to look like? Is it going to be a long neck Jaw Titan? Because that'd be pretty cool, a long neck Jaw Titan jumping around the trees and stuff. But I'm also really glad because I've come to like Falco, so I know that since he's consumed Porco, he's going to be a shifter, and we'll get to see him back in his human form. Kind of curious to see how he and Gabi kind of process this whole situation. And I guess the door's still open now for Gabi to inherit the Armored Titan because they're not going to give two Titans to Falco, right? So that might give him some distress also. But as the fight keeps going on, Magath is really wanting to take out these threats. He wants to take out the Founding Titan. Well, they want to capture the Founding Titan, but he really wants to take out Zeke before Zeke can unlock the Founding Titan and start the rumbling. But at this point, Zeke pulls a Cart Titan. He fakes his death. Even says he learned it from Peak. And as this happens, somehow Eren is aware of it. Eren notices it, maybe from the corner of his eye while he's rolling around on the ground with Reiner, but he abandons his Titan form and he just heads straight to make contact. And here, I'm kind of like cheering because, I've got this whole theory that will, prove to be justified that Eren plans to do his own thing and not to be Zeke's puppet. Of course, we're going to see it doesn't go exactly as planned, but we know at least Eren had a plan. So he's running. I'm really getting excited to see this, and I'm thinking, wow, they're actually going to show us what happens when Eren unlocks the power this soon. This is when Gabi acts. And I've spent the last couple of episodes wondering when is Gabi going to pull up that gun, that gigantic sniper rifle that we saw her use in the trailer for this season. And I also wondered, like, when she does pull it up, who's she going to be aiming at? So she does pull up the gun as Eren's heading towards Zeke. And I still think maybe she's going to aim at Reiner. Maybe she's going to aim at Zeke. I can see she wants to take Zeke out. Also, it doesn't help that the first time I watched it, my screen buffered, so I missed the shot the first time. But trust me, I've seen it plenty since then. But in the moment, she pulls that trigger, and it hits Eren. And I was shocked. I'm not a manga reader for this, at least not yet. I want to finish the show first. Of all the things that could happen, that wasn't what I was expecting to happen. I was very much shocked in that moment. And my first reaction was disappointment because I thought Gabi was on this redemption path. But I also have to understand she is caught up in so many different emotions. So much horror has gone on around her. She probably can't process it. She's still a child, regardless of her training. Probably can't process it. And she acted emotionally towards the one person she's most consistently felt is her enemy here. And of course, that's Eren. And man, what a shot. I mean, she hits him perfectly. And it doesn't make his head explode like you'd expect to do from a big old rifle like that. But it almost looks like it was decapitated with a blade. The head just flies off. And the blood spins all around the stump, especially as the shot goes through. And somebody pointed out to me, again, in the comments, that this is kind of like Eren getting his own red scarf. Because, Eren gave Mikasa that red scarf that she valued so long, and then recently she made the decision to leave it behind. And now in this situation, Gabi kind of gives him his own red scarf. And I think that the artist, when it's drawn, when it's animated, purposefully give it that particular location and spray so that it does kind of mimic like a red scarf around his neck. I think some symmetry, some story symmetry, some narrative symmetry, I think that that's intentional in that moment. And, once again, I'm just echoing things that I've heard from the comments and from the folks who've watched it and talked to me about it so far. But with the baseball analogy and baseball being such an important part in Zeke's life here, it does kind of look like he's a center fielder trying to steal a double, the way he reaches out his hand and catches Eren's head while it still has some life left in it. And before it hits the ground, it does kind of look like a diving catch that Zeke pulls off there, even though the head is significantly bigger than a baseball. And up until he caught it, there was part of me still thinking, especially the first watch through with the buffering, like maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe this isn't Aaron's head. Maybe it's somebody else's head. But that would be stupid. It was Aaron's head. And we get a flashback to something we'd seen before, the conversation between Aaron and Zeke back in Liberia, where Zeke's talking about the euthanization plan and when he discusses it with Aaron. And we see just a little bit further this time. The first time we saw it, he says it's best if we don't shake hands and throws the baseball towards him or something like that. But here, we actually see that Aaron doesn't catch it. And the way that I looked at it, it looked like he didn't even attempt to catch it. So I think just this little bit of sort of disinterest in being connected with Zeke was enough to let Zeke know that Aaron was lying in this moment, or that Aaron wasn't being sincere, and that Aaron did not have the kind of connection with Zeke that Zeke was hoping he would have. And Zeke was pretty clever to pick up on that. But it was like their symbolic handshake. It was the same as refusing to shake his hand when he didn't catch the ball. I think that helped sort of cue in Zeke that there was going to be some strange things afoot once Aaron made contact, and he probably started his own counter plan in that moment. But after we see that, we go back and we see time freezes throughout Shiganshina. We see one Titan just chomping on some Marley meat. We see some of the scouts just frozen in the air. I think we see Armin and Mikasa frozen as they're getting ready to attack the cart Titan. This is to tell me time is standing still as we go to the coordinate. And the coordinate is this space, this void where all the lights come together in this place that looks like a desert. Zeke talks about how many years he spent there waiting for Aaron to regain his strength and to come back alive from his very, very near death experience. But I do think that we're supposed to understand that time moves differently here in the coordinate space or in this void or this plane. Like all these years that have passed here in the coordinate space are only going to be an instant in the battlefield when they go back. And the whole concept of the founding Titan and the things that can be done in this space and how little time it takes kind of reminds me of this concept from Mistborn, Brandon Sanderson's series of books. And a person can get a godlike power, but they hold it for like 1/8 of a second. But during that 1/8 of a second, they can totally rebuild the world and change the orbit and change how close the planet is to the star that it orbits and crazy stuff like that. So I like that idea that time is just pretty much not happening in this plane. Even though you perceive the passage of time, everything's standing still because you're quite literally omnipotent once you're here. And we did kind of see that time moves differently here back when Zeke was rebuilt from that thunder spear injury after he, pulled what looked like a suicide escape from Levi and blew himself up in the cart with the thunder spear. And, his whole legs had to be rebuilt and he came back looking totally healthy. But not that much time had passed in the real world, like maybe some time, but definitely not years or months or weeks. So we already got that concept kind of given to us just a few episodes ago about how that time moves differently in the coordinate plane. And the founder, Emir Fritz, she's the embodiment of power in this plane. She's like a physical manifestation of the raw power that the founding Titan can wield. And she's here in this plane. And as I'm looking at the plane and starting to think about it and how familiar it is, I'm thinking, didn't we see who I'll call the pretender Emir, the Emir who carried the power of the Jaw Titan? When she first ate Marcel, didn't she come to life or wake up here in this space? And it makes me wonder if there's more than just the royal blood to being here. Like she was worshipped as if she were a descendant of the original founder, Emir. So I don't know if just that worship alone is enough to put you there, or maybe it wasn't as much of a trick as everyone thought. Maybe Emir really did have some royal blood in her. I mean, she was clearly Eldian, so anything's possible, right? But I have to start to wonder if everything Zeke said here in this, if all of that was actually true. Because, what he's saying to Aaron about how Aaron doesn't have the royal blood, so he can't actually command the founding Titan Emir. She'll only listen to one with the royal blood. And he goes into all this talk. But that didn't happen with Dinah. Like when he made contact with Dinah Fritz, he was able to use his own scream and command the other Titans on that battlefield. He didn't have to go to the coordinate plane. He didn't have to ask Emir to give her power to him and then do it. He was able to do it in that instant. And I'm wondering if part of what is different here is the fact that Aaron was incapable of expressing his will at the moment contact was made, so that this power was unlocked and Aaron wasn't immediately able to seize it. So that somehow allowed Zeke to seize it in Aaron's place. If Aaron had had full willpower intact when it first happened, would it have gone down the same way it did with Dinah Fritz back in season 2? I don't know if we'll get the answer to that, but I'm just kind of curious. Like, I still feel like I can't believe everything Zeke says to be true here, but he's definitely wanting Aaron to believe it's true. And for practical purposes, at this point, it appears he has seized that power from Aaron. But is there a way for Aaron to seize it back? I don't know. I also wonder, when Zeke put their heads together, like when Zeke put his head and Aaron's head together, and we get this flash of light, what exactly did he do to Aaron? Like, did he take control of Aaron at that point? Like, is he going to be controlling Aaron from here on out? Is Aaron losing all of his free will, which is exactly what he was fighting to avoid through this whole story? Is that what happened to him here? Has he become fully controlled by Zeke? Have they merged into one Titan? Or maybe did Zeke take the founding Titan completely away from Aaron? Because that might be a power he has. Like, Aaron may just be left with the attack Titan power, or maybe even no Titan power. But I feel like Zeke would leave him with the attack Titan power, just take the founding Titan power. Kind of curious to see what happens. Is there any hope for Aaron to stop Zeke now? I'm feeling a little pessimistic. I think that Aaron can't do anything if Zeke has this founding Titan power to control the Titans any way he sees fit. I think everything at this point just might fall onto the shoulders of Armin and Mikasa. And that's going to be a tall order, but it'll be interesting to see how they deal with it. But I just have to shake my head because it is so hard for me to picture Aaron being able to do anything to oppose Zeke if Zeke truly has that founding Titan power. And also, back when we do get in Shiganshina again, I'm curious to see what the heck they're going to do with all these new Titans roaming around. Do they go back to square one? Does Hanji lead up a new team to try to chase him outside the walls? Do they actually kill them now that they know so much about the story of the Titans? Like, we saw Aaron was starting to pity the Titans near the end of season 3, or at least the beginning. Yeah, end of season 3. So I don't know what they're going to do with these Titans roaming around, if they're going to try to find a way to put them to use. I guess Zeke is going to want to put him to use, so maybe they have to take him out. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't even know where the story goes from here. Like, how do you have an episode that follows this, much less there's like 9 more episodes, right? I'm losing count here, but there's a lot more episodes. So my mind is blown. The only thing I can do is just go check out the next episode, but gotta wait till Sunday. With that, I'm just going to say I'm proud of you for watching anime, and I'll talk to you again soon.
I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon. It really means a lot to me. If you think you might be in a position to support the channel on Patreon, there is a link in the video description. Please go check it out. Join the Patreon in order to receive early access to reactions and reviews, as well as extended cuts of the reactions and occasional bonus videos taking a look behind the scenes, as well as chat and polls to help me plan things to cover for the future of the channel. Thank you.